That's very good, yes.
I hope they're easy. Well, I've got you here, so that's okay. No, Sam, you should take that.
No, actually, I have no question. I'm here just.
Ah. You may have questions.
Maybe. Once we start talking, you might have questions. Okay, let's see how we do today. We got our branding from 1000 Watt that I'm going to show at the meeting today.
I was thinking about 1000 Watt last night.
I'm excited. I actually really like it. I don't know if the rest of you are going to like it, but I think they've done a nice job and I like it a lot.
Lovely.
I shouldn't tell you that because now if you hate it, you're not going to tell.
I don't have the notifications. I have certain suit tie combos that were, the ones I get outside of that, I've got to get a second opinion. So I'm not sure I'm qualified.
Did you want this session as a webinar or meeting people can speak?
Meeting's fine. Do you have it set up as a webinar?
No, so it was a meeting.
Oh,
The
perfect.
thing is like,
You can default them though, or excuse me, mute them by default,
yeah, I have to
sort of keep them default.
Yeah, we can have a meeting so they can see us. Can we see what that looks like there? Are we going to see their faces on there? No. Or
That's where if you
the
had
screen
the,
share.
if you had the screen.
Who would I see on that? Am I going to see people on that screen?
No, you made this.
screen once we start.
Oh, yes, I'd like that. Yeah, because we need to see the slides. Can you put those? Sorry, hang on. So just one sec. Can you put them in my office? Do you know where my office is beside Michael Struthers? I've claimed it as mine, decorated it as mine.
So 50 or quarter.
50.
Good.
Yeah, and for soon, 10 minutes, right? 9:45?
Yep.
You hold that for a minute. I'm gonna go run and grab my phone, actually.
Yeah, I'm just gonna plug in the HDMI.
Check.
It's not gonna show up on their phones over there.
I'm gonna use a super low voice today. Okay,
Don't use a low voice today.
I'm gonna use low voice. Check. Oh, there it is. There it is.
All right, so whatever they do, they're doing.
Are you downtown or Don Mills?
No. I live there, like 15 minutes walking distance from the office.
Oh, very nice. And do you walk to office? Oh, lovely.
There's parking.
Yeah.
Yeah, and for me. That's
Walking to office would be good.
time to think and reflect.
Hmm. Good morning.
Good morning, everybody on Zoom. We're just going to give folks a minute or two to get settled, and then we are going to get started. Okay.
Morning.
Chris just went to the kitchen. That's a good spot for him. Which is, can you give Darren and Chris the other mic? So Darren, we're gonna some people have to hold the mic. We're gonna have to just talk loudly. Okay?
Testing. Hello, check.
Don't hold it that close to the mouth. You're to like down here and hold it between you and Chris so he can. Okay.
I lost the bet. Yeah. Right? I text Jackie right away. I said, I'm buying you lunch. Her answer was. Do I need a microphone or anything?
We only have the two mics, so you and Darren are sharing. He's gonna hold it between you and you're gonna talk about
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah, we checked with the, sort of this does work for picking up both.
It does, huh? Oh, good. That's great. Like the reporter. Exactly.
Okay, good morning, everybody. We're gonna get started in just a minute here. Key, can you put the slides on the TV if you don't mind? Good morning, Zoom land. I feel like it's like old school COVID where we can, if y'all had turned your cameras on, we could see you. And I always would get distracted during COVID because I'd be looking at people's backgrounds like, oh, I like that piece of art. Is that your dog? Like I could never stay focused when we had like the meetings and you could see everybody. It was a real challenge for me. So good morning. Thank you for being here today. Nice to see so many of you in the room, which is great. The purpose of our session today really is that we're assuming most of you have come through the accelerator program with either Darren or Michael. We'll call you newer. Some of you are brand new. Some of you have been here a little bit longer, which is okay. It's nice to have some different skill level and experience level. But really we wanted to put something together because in the beginning, when you were trying to get your career going, I'm sure I'm not incorrect in saying you feel like you have a whole lot of stuff coming at you, right? There's so many things it feels like you're supposed to be doing. And you're getting 100 emails from all different service providers. And our purpose today is just to kind of bring you back into focus to say, this is what you should be focusing on. We're going to go through a little bit of content, share some slides, and then we're going to open up the forum for you to ask any questions you have. There's no question that isn't something that someone else probably isn't thinking. I guarantee you, if you're like, I don't know if I should ask this, I promise you someone else is probably thinking the same thing. So don't be embarrassed. This is a safe space. We'd love to hear everything that's pressing on your mind so we can help you move your careers and your businesses forward. So,
Yeah.
Welcome, gentlemen. Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning. And 50 basis points.
Just reading the news.
All right. Well, can you read it on your
Well,
phone right now?
I mean,
Let's see what time you're allowed to text when we're presenting.
Yeah, exactly. I was just looking up and I was actually, what I was looking at was I wanted to see what the 5-year bond was doing as well. And it's up a little bit.
Yeah.
But, which is interesting. So that's going to keep fixed rates kind of where they are. But, the variables, of course, are
Celebrating.
Celebrating.
We are celebrating.
We are celebrating, yeah. So it's going to be interesting. I think the key thing with the rates though is I don't know how everybody else feels about it, but I think it's going to be more of a mental thing, like than the actual money or costs itself in many cases. I mean, obviously there's a direct cost if you have a variable rate mortgage, but it's also the energizing, effect of having lower interest rates and the Bank of Canada saying we're going to make money cheaper, which means we want to stimulate the economy and we want to make sure that things are going to kind of percolate forward. So that brings hope, that brings excitement, it brings comfort. And so people will start making more and more decisions. And I think that's what, I'm most excited about actually. Obviously.
The energy over the last 2 weeks has been changing.
Yeah.
And increasingly, and this will, I think, really get the conversation started with the people that we're connected to. So it's exciting. We've come through, I would like to believe, the worst of it, and we have brighter days ahead. which means more sales.
Mhm.
Agreed.
If you weren't sure what brighter days meant, more transactions.
That's not what you meant.
Well, yesterday, I mean, well, I try to look at the data and, I have somebody kind of tracking the rough data off of Trev. And early indication is transaction volume's actually up 25%
Wow.
this October versus last October. Now, it's not, don't quote me on it because it's not perfectly accurate. Maybe it'll be up 10 or 15% by the end of the month or something like that. Maybe it'll be up 20. I don't know. 25 seems high overall to me. It might be just the timing of the way the days fell and the way things are being reported this year versus last year. There's a bunch of factors. But nonetheless, there's more transactions being done this October than there was last October. So that growth that lower rates brings is starting. And I think that's what's, going to be
Very exciting.
very exciting as we see more and more people. And then, that gets out into the news and more people feel confident, like, oh gosh, well, maybe if others are going to be buying, well, maybe I should be buying. And that, must be okay to get out there. I should do something before prices change or things get,
One of the principles I think we've held to as well over the last, at least year and a half is this idea that there are a lot of people out there that want to do something in real estate. And for whatever reason, they were on the sideline. But with this obviously announcement, and I'll be interested to hear what the language of the Tip Macklin was with respect to, what we can anticipate going forward. But I think it's going to allow people that have been putting off an opportunity with more confidence to move into the market. So
for you folks that are newer, of course, I remember when I started selling, I would get anxiety sometimes when people would start talking about the Bank of Canada or interest rates. And I'd think to myself, like, I don't know how I'm going to actually be able to put this in a concise, very smart sounding thing to say to people I'm talking to. So I won't ask you to put your hands up if you're feeling like that. But what I will say is that, this is a big piece of the puzzle when it comes to starting a new career, is it almost feels a little bit like you're learning a new language, because you've got to figure out how to talk about these things to people and how to say them confidently. And I know in the beginning, you're like, well, I don't feel that confident because I've just started and they know I've just started. And so it's a bit of this juxtaposition. So there's a couple things that you really want to focus in on just before we get into the slides, because this is so topical to what's happening right now. So number one, you need to make sure you're coming on to Signature Live, especially the first 15 minutes where Chris really talks about that market update and his perspective on what we can see from a patterning perspective. And it sounds really silly, but have a little notebook beside you when you're listening to him, jot down some notes and just say what he says. That's what I used to do. And it's really, really simple. And it makes you feel like, okay, I can do this. I can say this. And you'll add your own kind of tonality to it and a little bit of your own personality, but just copy down what he says and have that beside you so you can reference it. The other piece of the puzzle is what Michael just mentioned. You want to read some of these publications that come out. So the Bank of Canada will release a full statement. And when they release that statement, you'll get a whole bunch of industry experts, a whole bunch of economists that'll also then put their spin on it. So really smart people like Dr. Sherry Cooper, she will do a complete newsletter probably by this afternoon or tomorrow morning, available on her website with her perspective on what she thinks is going to happen based on the Bank of Canada's information. You don't need to come up with new things to say. You just need to read what other people are saying, think about if that makes sense to you, and then share that back with your audience. So I know that's a big thing that I get from new agents. They're like, I don't know what I should be saying. I don't know if I can say it confidently. Just write down what other people are saying and say it back, and say it out loud if you have to, sitting in your living room by yourself. Just talk about it out loud to yourself. Record a video that you don't send to anybody, and you'll find your confidence will improve when it comes to talking about the market specifically.
And I was just going to, on top of that, like, here's a perfect moment in time where you take the script we learned from Jimmy Mackin last week at the event. And now, like, everybody should be hitting send on that script, right? Has the recent change in mortgage, in Bank of Canada rate affected your thoughts about real estate for 2025? Question mark to every single person that's in our database. This is a major change. This is a factor that's going to change people's perception. And so take the script. I mean, I butchered it because I don't have it in front of me, but you know what I mean, right?
Just telling them to write down what you said.
But you can do better because we've got Jimmy Mackin teaching us exactly what to say and when to say it, right? And so this is the idea now, is now we've got a moment. Now take the script that we have and execute on it and press send, right? Like that's all you got to do and see what happens, right? post that script on social media, as Jimmy said, see what response you get, do the polls, right? This is,
You know, and,
This
and
is-
what does 11 conversations about real estate turn into?
yeah, what,
So good. I was like, oh, that's better than I thought it was gonna be. Geez, that was like 25.
Mhm.
I updated these slides last night. I apologize. I didn't update the date on here. It's not August 21st. I missed that when I was going through them last night. Later in the evening as I was getting us organized for this morning. Any questions on communicating information about the market? Any, thing anyone wants to ask or share on that before we kind of get into slide content, and then at the end we'll open it up to questions.
and if you're at home, put it right into the chat and
Yeah.
we can, or the Q&A, is there Q&A as well, or just chat?
It would be,
Q&A, perfect.
I actually think it would be valuable if we just paused on this, what we just talked about right now with respect to the rate change and what that might mean to the market as a whole, because we're going to be connected to people still right now that are going to, we're not sure, we're not sure where rates are going to go. We're not going to sure what, this is going to impact on prices or activity, because we've been hearing this over the last 2 years, right? The market's going to come down further. Well, let's start off by agreeing that we don't know what the future holds. But when we start hearing the experts and the Bank of Canada suggesting that we are in a lowering of rate environment that we're currently experiencing, that's going to translate most likely into increased activity and increased sale prices. So as the people that you're communicating with are saying, oh, I'm still not sure, just say, help me here's one of the scripts, help me understand why you feel that way. Like, what is it about you're seeing that would cause you to believe that the market may come down further in price? Because the data that we're seeing, the experts that we're speaking, listening to are not saying that. And so we need to have that type of information. We don't have to have everything perfect, but if you understand the fundamental of the idea that in a rate reduction in situation, we're likely going to see, an increased activity as a result of that. We saw it, with the COVID. The COVID.
Yeah.
We saw it with the COVID and what happened ultimately when they brought the rates to virtually zero, right? Market took off. And, again, we're not suggesting that it's going to zero, but as they, pull back on the interest rates, we are anticipating the activity to increase as a result of that. So if you take that message to the people that you're connected to, you're going to be they're going to question you about that, and that's okay, but that's sort of the foundation of what we believe and what we're anticipated going into 2025.
Mhm.
More sales in 25 for sure.
For sure.
And prices up
For sure.
for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, prices are showing up 2 or 3 years now. So I think they're starting to make their move.
No,
I was just gonna say, hands up, who's feeling intimidated to reach out to their database right now about a conversation? Nobody?
We're gonna.
Good.
we're testing that later in the morning. that
We're doing
we get to
calls.
Make a few calls. Perfect.
Yeah, those of you in the room can't have lunch until you start making some dials. So.
These
Go ahead, Derek.
are the opportunities and the golden opportunities to reach out to your client, and we actually have something to talk to them about, right? So if you're feeling that intimidation of reaching out to your database, here's a great opportunity to talk about rates and have that conversation and how far they can, how many other conversations will pop out of just talking about the lower interest rates. So
You're gonna have to talk a little louder, Darren.
Yeah.
Like
Oh,
this.
really?
This over here, yeah. You can hold it down here. You're just gonna have to be like a loud talker.
wow, I thought I was really talking loud. Let me talk a little louder. Yeah, so no, I was just saying that it's a great opportunity to take these types of this type of information in the news and cascade it to our clients, because it's an opportunity to reach out to them and have a conversation, which opens up so much more.
Mhm.
Not just talking about the rate, but where they're going with their purchasing. And we had a time where there were so many sales happening, we couldn't keep up. Where have those people gone now, right? They're waiting in the weeds and they're ready to pounce. But because of interest rates and all the conversations and news that we hear all the time, people are waiting and waiting and waiting, and they're just waiting for somebody like you to put them on the right path and discuss that information. So
You know, I was just thinking about, like, if we've been talking to our people over the last 18 months and we have been, you know, sharing the information and putting the, you know, sort of the positive spin on what we've been experiencing, how much easier should it be for the calls today?
Mhm.
Right? Like, if we have been navigating over the last, you know, period of time, trying to, you know, explain the opportunity that existed in a time that there was a lot of uncertainty, how much easier should those conversations today would be, right? So I think it's,
Yeah.
I would agree with Darren. Let's get out there and get those calls
Good
started.
segue. Ms. Cannon, my slide changer is not working.
Did you break it?
Probably. I don't know if you heard me the other day when they were asking me all kinds of questions about like the internet speed and my plug-in cable. I'm like, I don't know the answers to any of these questions.
Interesting. Oh, it's on too.
Okay, you want to just navigate it from there? Okay, there we go. Okay, so this is something we talk about a lot that you would have heard before when we chat about building your database on Signature Live. And you would have heard this in Accelerator. So the number one thing in our opinion that's going to questions?
So I have a question regarding rate cut. So I've been talking to my friends and I've been suggesting, okay, so today we will be having a rate, like most probably we will have a rate cut. And I was suggesting come to market, like they have the money, they are ready to buy, but they are holding. And when I'm telling, okay, rate cut will be happen, they are not ready to buy yet. They are saying, I will wait until next year, more rate cut will happen. So in that case, what we should suggest and how should we plan it?
Great question. So the question was, I have buyers that are sitting on the sidelines, waiting for more rate cuts to happen before they want to make a decision. Is that, yeah, great. So, I mean, one thing I would.
You heard that question before?
We hear it every day, right? And it's a normal question, right?
Yeah.
And I say it often, if you read the stuff on the long weekend updates and what I talk about, most consumers are going to wait because what they're saying is, I need more evidence that things are heading in the right direction, that the home I buy today isn't going to be cheaper tomorrow.
Right.
Most people can't be early adopters to buy, because really now technically is the best time to buy, I think, because if rates are going to go down, prices will go up. So what you could try to do, and maybe you've done this, I don't know, is, the chart we have that shows when interest rates went up, prices went down. When interest rates go down, prices go up, right? So you could use the visual of the chart. And what I would also recommend everybody then does is take an amortization schedule, open it up on your computer or your iPad or your laptop or whatever it is, and put numbers in. Say, okay, well, what number are you waiting for rates to get to? Let's take a look at it, right? Do you think they're going to go another 50 basis points lower? Do you want 3.5%? Mortgage rates, like what, you tell me, what is the number? Maybe they say it's, 375 for 5-year money. Okay, well, that's 50 basis points lower than it is today. Let's do the calculation and show you, let's see what it means, like visually show them what that difference in payment means for them. Then show them the reality that in the spring of 23 is a perfect example. Rates dropped quickly. Prices jumped $150,000 in 90 days, right? So do you want to save the $100,000 in price increase, or are you worried about $120 a month payment difference or $200 a month payment difference, right? Because the offset is so dramatic. You're not actually saving, you're actually going to be spending a lot more. But they go, well, yeah, but I'll buy before prices go up. Well, that's today, right? And what might be valuable for you and your clients is to see that October's numbers are going to likely show prices going up. So it's not an easy answer where people are going to get it instantly, but what it is it's the ability for you to speak to, show, educate, and then over time they will come to understand that now might be the time for them. But through education, it's really the only way that we're going to get it. But you have to sit down with them and show them. Having a conversation over the phone or text, you're not going anywhere. It's not going to happen. I'll tell you right now. You have to set up a meeting, bring them into the office, get them a coffee, pull it up on the big screen, do the amortization, show the charts, tell the story, and ask them, after seeing the information, how do you feel about waiting now, right? That's how I would approach it. But you're not going to do it over the phone. I guarantee you that. You're never going to convince somebody over the phone without the visuals. It's not going to happen.
From a technical side, Chris was absolutely bang on with respect to how to approach this. But the other thing we have to understand is they're afraid. Emotionally, they're afraid. They had friends that in February 22 went out and bought something, and today it's in rough shape. So we have to recognize the fact that emotionally they're worried about making a mistake. And so we have to, even recognize that, put it on the table, put it part of the conversation, and help them overcome this, concern, this fear with the type of information that Chris shared. Because I think people will look back to, today and sort of say, boy, I wish I had bought at that time when you had encouraged me. Because the prices are going to go up. Activity is going to increase. Prices are going to go up. We all remember the market. And for some of you, I know you were with me during that time. I know Taraj at the back was, where, bid, lose, bid, lose, bid, lose was how it worked for those buyers. And today we still have an opportunity to get out there, take a look at the property a couple of times, put some conditions in. Like, it is a better buying environment, and we have to be able to explain that, right? And show them the data, as Chris suggested. But it's not easy, and we have to recognize that. And I would even just say, listen, it's a big decision, right? You want to make the right decision for you and your family, and these are the things we need to be considering. Hope that helps.
Thank you. Good answer, Dylan. Okay, so let's go through a little bit of database marketing. So one of the big things that we want you to kind of think about as you're building your business is that it is easier, let's call it easier, to build your business based on people you know and people they know. So that's why we spend a lot of time talking about your database and your connectivity plan, which we're going to talk about today. The new side of the business is people you don't know already. So that's efforts like open houses, door knocking, cold calling, going to events where you don't know anybody. Maybe you know the host that's inviting you, and you're trying to know new people to add them to your list. That's the new business component. And you can see on this screen here that obviously from a repeat perspective, you're just not there yet if you're brand new. Referral is really where we're looking at. That's going to be built on trust and built on the people that you know referring you to people they know, because they're confident you're going to do a good job and that you're educated and know what you're doing. And then the new piece, you can see there, it says expensive in time or money. I'm sure, not everyone wants to spend hours a day door knocking, but it is a component of the business. I'm sure you don't want to necessarily host an open house on a Saturday in the middle of the summertime if nobody shows up, but it is a part of the business. And for those of you that are really wanting to get going, new business is a big, big piece of the puzzle that we don't want you to overlook. So you can go to the next slide. We're going to start a little bit and talk about the database piece. In Accelerator, you all should have done this already. And if you haven't done it or you're not finished, it doesn't really ever end. This whole idea of building your database never really ends. And we have some of you in the room that are more experienced than others, and it doesn't end for you either. This is the time of the year where you should be reviewing your year so far and thinking about the leads you've met, the people you've talked to, the deals you've done, and that part of your database has been updated at the same time. My hope is that you're here already. And you can see at the bottom there when I updated this last night, you want to have 100 qualified people at the end of your first year on your database. And what does qualified mean? It doesn't mean they're going to buy or sell tomorrow. It doesn't mean they can actually afford to buy or sell anything. It means if we went through your list and I pointed at a name and we called that person and they said, hi, and I said, hi, this is Sam Hewitt from Royal LePage Signature. I'm calling because I'm wondering if you're connected to Michael Stuthers. They would say, yes. Yeah, I know Michael. He's a realtor. I watch his stuff on social. I get his newsletters. I hear from him 4 times a year. If I were to buy or sell, Michael is someone I would consider working with. Michael's not going to be the only realtor they know. That's impossible in this city. But it has to be the kind of relationship where this person is not a stranger to Michael. It's not someone they met at an open house 12 months ago. And if I call, they're like, who? Michael who? I don't know, Michael. Michael calling from where? That's the idea of 100 qualified people. So out of curiosity, just in your own notes where you're making notes, I want you to write down your number. How many qualified people do you think you have right now that would know you're in real estate, have received a piece of content from you, or they've received a phone call, or, if I grabbed a name off of your list and said, hey, tell me about Shay Sharma, they'd be able to say, oh yeah, I know Shay, he works for Royal LePage Signature. He's a great realtor in Toronto. He works these neighborhoods. Write down your number just out of curiosity. And I want you to also write down 100. Gentlemen, you want to talk about database marketing? I don't want to do all of that.
Database.
I could talk all day about database marketing.
You're good at it.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm only good at it because I've been studying it for so long.
Darren, what do you know about database marketing?
I know it's super important. Yeah, I know it was a big part of my business. I think that's pretty much everything that I did was dedicated toward my database. Because like Sam said, do I have my finger over this
No,
or
you just have
something?
to talk louder. Just
I'm not talking loud. It feels like I'm yelling. Okay, here we go. Yeah, it's coming up with ideas and making sure that we're out in front of our people each and every month. Not everybody's going to buy and transact today, next month, 6 months, 5 years from now. But we got to keep letting them know that we're in the business, letting them know that we're there for their referrals if they have them. It's the key component to being successful in this business, other than the execution side, right? You need to implement that strategy and that idea each and every month. The great thing is that we have done for you marketing, done for you social posts, done for you seminars. So we have a lot of ideas here, but if anything, if you don't like the stuff that we're producing, it's a reminder for you to reach out to your database some way, somehow, each and every month. It's critical if you want to be successful in this industry.
Yeah.
Yeah. For those of you who have, I'm sorry about that.
Jump in.
For those of you who did Accelerator with me, you would have heard that. I'm just thinking about what Darren was sharing with us, and just to speak to the importance of what he reminded us of. The people in your database are going to trade in real estate at some point. It's not a question of if, it's a question of when, right? Like, I want you to, think about that. It's not if, it's when. So if you have 200 people in your database, they are going to trade over the next, 1 to 7 years. And they're going to use a realtor. They are. The only question is, well, 2 questions really. When are they going to trade? And number 2, who are they going to use? And if, and again, it speaks to the importance of the connectivity plan, which, of course, is a foundation of what we do here. If you are connected to those individuals during the times where they are not trading, a couple of great things are going to happen. One, it's going to elevate the opportunity to help them when that time comes for them. And number 2, it's going to put you into a position where when they hear about their friends thinking about trading, you're going to be top of mind with them. Like, having that connectivity is going to be absolutely critical. So marketing to your database, as Darren had reminded us, is really just the mechanisms that we're using for maintaining that, that connectivity. But they're going to trade, and they're going to use a realtor. And you are going to greatly elevate your opportunity to work with them and their friends if you have some sort of plan in place that you consistently execute on, so that they don't forget that you're in the business.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we're working towards here. They're going to trade. They're going to use a realtor. The only question is when and who. And a lot of that is within your control.
Yeah, great perspective.
And I was thinking, just reminding us, you're saying that, Michael, like Jimmy Mackin shared with us the other day that, a database has, for a person's contact information is so critical. Like, do you name, phone number, email, address? That's a database. So look at all the people you have. Do you have all 4 points, right? Clearly you've got a name, that's for sure. But that's just the beginning. And so what a great opportunity now to just connect with people to say, hey, I'm just updating my information. I don't have your full address. Could I get that from you? Sure. Here you go. Right? This is the kind of thing that we need to have. You have to have this information in order to be able to have a truly thorough database and an ability to connect. And then I'd say the 5th piece is making sure that you're connected in some form of social media with folks, because you have to go to where they are going. Every single person is looking at social media every single day, all day long, sadly, in some cases. But you really have to think about, like, the robustness of the database is going to be critical. Tom Ferry shared with us, they did an analysis of 10 top agents, 500,000 contacts. Only half of them had addresses. Only half the contacts had addresses.
Yes. And, oh, yep, that's right, go ahead, yeah,
So when you know people like your personal family and friends,
yes,
like I don't want to send things out.
Yes.
Deleted unless like I've asked that. have a
yes.
Conversation. with
That's what I was just gonna say, I'm so happy, what's your name?
Guy.
Guy 3, I'm so happy you asked that question. The question was, you know, if I have friends and family, I don't want to just start sending them stuff without asking. And Guy 3, I'm gonna challenge you a little bit, I want it to be the opposite for you. So when you're starting, when you're getting going, right, as a new agent, I'm sure you're all thinking, I don't want to bother people, I don't want to spam people, I don't want to be, you're going to add them to your list. You're going to start sending them stuff. If they don't like it, they're going to go, I don't want to get this stuff. Can you take me off your list? And you take them off. It's not a big deal. You're going to start as a new person, and some of you more experienced folks, with the assumption that people want to hear from you. You have to go into it with that mindset. I know that you're in an environment, and I know in the beginning, I remember that feeling so vividly. I'm sure maybe you do. I don't know about the other two of you. No comment on your age, but just your tenure. Just your tenure. I remember vividly that feeling when I started of thinking, everyone else is better than me. Why are people going to work with me when there's so many other experienced agents and you know, better presentations? And the reality is you're in an environment at this brokerage where we all have a growth mindset. If you go out to the average real estate event, if you think that those realtors are marketing to their databases and they're doing what we tell you to do, you're wrong. They're not. They really aren't. And you have to believe me. I have no proof or data. I can just tell you based on what I do all day and the time I spend with outside agents at conferences and seminars, they're not doing this stuff. And so if you want to stand out and succeed in this business, you have to go into it with the mindset that what you have to share is valuable. And not other people are out there educating your friends and family like you're going to. And I say that really wholeheartedly with conviction. And some of you that are more experienced in the room will agree with me. And if I put you on the spot, I know you'd say that I'm right and you believe the same thing. They're not. And so you have to add your people and you have to start talking to them. And if they don't like it, they'll tell you, you'll hear it, but they want to hear it. Donovan?
Yeah, a good way that I put it was, I was scared originally when I started, but then after that, it was, can you imagine if they buy off someone else, not you? Like, what would that feeling be if I didn't reach out to them without scared?
That's
That
right.
feeling is so much worse than it would be that they said, you know what, please stop and mail it up ready on the chat.
Yes, Donna, the comment Zoomland from Donovan was that if you don't market to people, you know, and they go buy with somebody else, not only are you going to feel worse, but they might have a negative experience because not all realtors are created equal. You all know that now. And so they might have a bad experience with a realtor who's not really in it to look after them. It's just really in it to make that commission check as fast as they possibly can. So you have to push through that.
And I think if you come from a place of true care and education for people, like, you know, for us, I think everybody probably knows by now that have been around us for at least a day will know that, like, it's really about education. Like, we want to bring education to everybody we know. We want to help people decipher, what does this half point today mean? Like, how does it affect your life as a homeowner, as an investor, as a buyer, as a renter? How does it? So if you're coming from a place of education, it's very rare for people to say, stop sharing good information with me.
Yep.
They might say, you know what, I'm sick and tired of you asking me if I need to buy or sell real estate,
Yes,
you know, the 8th time
this month.
But I love that that I'm getting information from you that's timely, thoughtful, and valuable to me. Like, I don't know anybody who's really going to say, stop sending me timely, thoughtful, valuable information about real estate. I don't think so.
But it's we started this call and I said, if you have something to share, please share it because someone else will be thinking. And I guarantee you, you're not the only one in the room thinking that. Everyone thinks that, especially when you're new and getting started. Everyone's thinking that, right?
Yeah.
But the reality is your competition isn't doing it either. And Donovan, I love your perspective. There are realtors out there that don't care about people the way you're going to care about people, especially the people that you're connected to. So throw everybody on the list. Okay. So you can see on your screen there, everybody goes on the list. You add everybody, you add everyone you know by first name. Don't worry that you're bothering them yet. Don't worry about any of that stuff yet. Get them all on there. You need to start your list building. You're going to hear us say it over and over and over again. And there's some of you in the room that are more experienced. And you've heard us in the champions and the leaders meeting saying, build your list, build your list, build your list over and over and over again. Ideally, at this point, if you've gone through Accelerator, you're moving that into some kind of a CRM, whether that's RLP Sphere or Exact Contact or Follow Up Boss. The best CRM is the one you use. Doesn't matter which system you pick. It's completely irrelevant. It's the one that you like, that you're comfortable with. I am not techie. I'm sure you picked up on that by now. Ms. Canna will tell you directly. I like Exact Contact, super easy to use. Very, no muss, no fuss, all the tools that you need. Darren is the RLP Sphere king. He knows how to use it better than anybody that I know. And he's like, it's so easy. Why are you not picking up on it? I'm like, I'm in there trying to figure, I can't get it. So the best one is the one that you use. You want to start moving into a system by now. If you're still using Excel, that's okay. If you're still getting your data organized, that's okay. But again, I want you to push yourself into this conversation of you can't have 100 qualified people if you don't have them living in a list somewhere. We can't be sending out information and even be worried we're bothering them if we don't have them already put into a system. So that has to be priority number one. Remember, we started today by saying, what do you need to know as a new people building your business? Let's cut out all the noise and put you on the right path. This is the path. This is it. You can build your business, open housing and door knocking and all these other things, which we'll talk about in a minute, but this is the path. It's people you know and people they know.
Yep.
Good.
Yep. And just to follow up, and then I guess two things. One, you've heard me say this previously as well. I don't want you to bog down on tech. Like if you're going to say, I'm going to use RLP Sphere and I'm not going to make a call until I am 100% confident with RLP Sphere, there will be a long time between that day and, when you start making your calls. So it's a work in progress. I would agree with Sam. Let's move it onto a CRM, but let's get those activities that are going to produce results for us happening alongside that.
Yes.
The other thing that I just wanted to finish off with just before we move on here is this idea that, we've talked about sending them stuff for education. And first off, they're not going to get upset with us. Okay. It's this fear that we build up in our head. Oh, what if I'm bothering? Similar to the door knock, okay, which doesn't really happen, meaning they don't get upset with us at the door. But part of the connectivity needs to be direct communication, right? They need to be educated by us, and we're, that's great because it's safe in a lot of ways. It's safe. We can send them stuff. It's safe. But we do need to connect with them directly and just say, how are you doing? How's the family? I saw on social your kids are doing the following. Tell me about it. Like, that has to be part of it as well, right? And then the conversation will naturally drift around to real estate, which is great, but we don't have to lead with it. So they have to know that we know what we're doing with respect to the profession, but they also have to know that we care, right? And I think both are critical.
Agreed. Talking about activities, segue in. Gentlemen, these are the ones that I put on our screen here. All of you can read those. I think as newer people, these are the most tangible, topical things that you can do. And I think they're also the most approachable, given what I know about you and your mindset and maybe some of your fears about how to get your business built. So the first one on your page there is a trades guide. I love the idea of building a trades guide. So the trades guide is you, as the realtor, going to people you know and saying, I'm building this guide for my clients and my people I'm connected to, because I get asked all the time, even as a new agent, do you have a painter and an electrician and this person and that person? And it's a really easy way to talk to people that you're connected to, because if you offer to help their business, what typically do they want to do for you? They typically want to help your business, right? Like if I called Sarah and I said, hey, Sarah, do you have an insurance person? And Sarah calls her insurance person and says, I'm getting this question all the time. Do you mind if I refer my clients to you? Would that work? What's the insurance person going to say? Yeah,
No.
I think I'd like that. I think I'd really like that. And the insurance person is going to be like, you know what? If I know anyone thinking of buying or selling, I'll refer you to. I'd be happy to return the favor. And so you can go through and build this guide and use this as a way to make phone calls to people that you know, that maybe you haven't talked to in a really long time. Because you don't want to call them for the first time in 10 years and say, hey, who do you know that wants to buy or sell real estate? That's going to feel probably pretty uncomfortable. Yeah, everybody? But if you phone them and say, hey, I noticed on your LinkedIn profile, I haven't talked to you in a while, but I noticed on your LinkedIn profile, you're in insurance, or you're an estate lawyer, or you're a florist or an event planner or an IT, or you know, you own a contracting company or you're in landscaping or anything in any kind of business that would appreciate receiving referrals, and you can build that guide and then you can send it out to your list of clients and you can send it to the person that you add, and that person will likely send it to the people that they know. And again, this is another idea that I guarantee you, if you spend some time and work on, 90% of realtors are not doing this. I mean, a lot of signature agents are doing it, which is great, but I would say outside of us, a lot of people are not doing this. And this is a good way for you as a new folks to pick up the phone and offer something of value to people that maybe you haven't talked to in a while. Question, Jen?
I like the idea of the trades guide. My only question is, I guess, about how we're just giving out this information, giving it out, and like love having it and being able to provide value. Isn't having it and having people come to us or being able to offer something kind of in the moment as a touch point instead of just here's all the stuff.
Yes.
Now you've got it. We don't have to talk about it anymore.
Yeah, I love that question. The question is, if we give them all of the trades contacts, they're not going to have to call us for questions anymore. So I love that thought so much. The other big mindset piece I want you to really kind of take in is that people forget almost everything. Consumers and just humans forget basically everything. So even though you're going to send them the guide, they're still going to phone you. And if they don't phone you, you're going to train people in your guide to say, hey, Mr. Insurance person, if anyone calls you that's one of my people, can you make sure you let me know that? And then you can then call the person and say, hey, I heard you talk to Michael about insurance. They didn't tell me the details, of course, because of privacy, but I heard he made a great connection. I really hope that he's going to be able to help you. But the reality is that, you know, it's kind of like going back to your comment about sending things to your database where it's going to be bothering them. If we actually bothered them with the amount of information, that would be a win, because our biggest hurdle is getting their attention. Like, attention in today's society is the currency. Getting people to actually focus on what it is you're doing is the whole win. That is the game. I mean, we collectively lead a very large team of you folks that benefit directly from what we're doing. And we struggle to get you to pay attention sometimes to what we're doing for you. So attention really is the big name of the game. You're going to send the guide out. A lot of times they're going to forget. They're going to forget where they put it. They can't find the email. They're going to phone you anyways, but I do appreciate where you're coming from.
The other thing I want to build on is this idea that those who have done the guide and use that to be part of their business have great success with it. So again, yeah. So take the fact that others have made it, you know, a successful tool for their business as a means of, you know, starting that
Conversation. Here are the other three ideas that I think are really important for newer agents. And then, gentlemen, I want you to jump in and put your perspective on them. So hosting a market outlook seminar here in the West Office, Gareth Cahill hosted one last week or the week before, I think that was. And again, this is an example of a done for you seminar. He does all the work. It's so wonderful. Like, I need to thank him more, truthfully. He does all the work. He prepares all the slides, all the charts, all the graphs, all the commentary. He gets on Zoom. He gets the whole thing organized. You just have to invite your clients. And he puts on this great presentation about what to expect in the market. So Onkar, for your people that are like, maybe we should wait until prices come down, you're like, no problem. Hey, if you're interested, why don't you come on to this session that I'm having or that's being held by a mortgage broker I know, and they're going to walk you through kind of what they think might happen to the market in the next 12 months. And again, for you folks as new people, if you're like, the experienced agents, I want them to do this themselves. So those of you that are in the room that have a little bit more experience, I'm looking directly at you with my piercing look. You want to do this yourself. You want to call your mortgage broker and say, hey, let's do this together. But those of you that are newer, you can just, you know, tack on one of the Dominion lending agents that's already doing this for their own people. And you can just invite your own clients. And again, this is very topical, high quality information that people want to know, but it takes the pressure off of you having to be the one to deliver it if you don't feel confident enough to do that. Those of you that have a little bit more tenure, you should be doing this yourself. And you should be doing it now. And you should combine it with the CMA contest. You want to talk about the CMA contest? You went rogue on me. Rogue on the CMA contest. Out of nowhere from the stage. He's like, we're going to run this great thing. I'm like, we're doing what now? Huh?
Yeah, I mean, I think everybody's probably heard about it now, but or if you haven't, you're not attending Signature Live, which is, we talk about in a minute, but what a great way to connect with people, right? This is what all we're trying to do is start conversations, have people put their hand up and say, yeah, I'd be interested in that kind of information. It positions you as an expert in the community
in knowing what's going on in real estate. So there's so many ways it causes you to need to make sure your database is up to date with all the information. So there's so many things that happen through this idea of, we threw a little contest around it to do as many as we can between now and December 31st. The whole reason for the contest is to get us used to doing the activities and have a little fun with it as well along the way, right? But if we're not, because this is so critical for us to have this ability to connect with people, provide information. If you have an RSP, you get a statement. I hold it like, because I used to get them digital in paper, and I miss that. But you get it digitally, likely now every month, right? What your investments are doing. That's effectively what we're going to do twice a year for all our clients who own real estate. Just tell them, hey, this is what's happening in your neighborhood. Thought you might be interested. I don't care if you're moving 5 years, 10 years, 20 years from now, but when you do move, I want you to use me as my philosophy. The only way you're going to use me is if I've proven my value over time. And what a great way to do it. And right now, with all that's happening in the market, no better time than right this minute to get connected. Tom Story sent an email out yesterday morning to his database and said that, I think the question was that he took one of Jimmy Mackin's scripts, right? And said, I think the one he chose was, are the upcoming changes to rates going to affect your decision-making in 2025? And he got, by 9 a.m., he'd had 2 requests for market for CMAs within an hour.
Good for him.
Again, it's one of the top agents in the business, right? Chairman's Club, top 1% in the country. He's just taking the ideas that we've shared and executing them. That's all he's doing. He's not doing anything fancier. He's just executing on the ideas. He does a trades guide every year, executes on the ideas, right? Proven results driving business.
And just to follow up, and I heard Chris say it about the activity that we're doing, the contest that we're doing. I had this question last night, and Suar was there for the question. It was the idea that, do they have to respond to us? And the answer is no. But as you heard on live yesterday, the real value of the activity as well allows for the conversation. So we are going to proactively do the real estate checkup for our people. We're going to send it to them, but the follow-up call, just to say, listen, do you have any questions? You've received the information. Have you had a chance to take a look at it? Wasn't sure, if it was clear with respect to what I'd share with you. Just want to give you a bit of a, update where your home fits in the marketplace. Like, the follow-up call doesn't, again, have to be, are you looking to buy or sell real estate? It just makes you available, makes you the expert, answers the questions. And, it's going to put you into the competition. But the real value of what we're talking about is it's going to create conversations. 11 conversations will turn into a closing. And that will be, a great outcome of the contest and of the activity. The other thing I just wanted to sort of finish off with is, and I just lost it.
No.
Some of you are going to be, wow, they bought it at a time when the value was up. Okay, so there's going to be a small percentage where the conversation is going to be a touch awkward, but we're not asking them to sell today. Most of the conversations, and we're moving back into a market where, the prices, I was thinking about that as the stocks, when we had our tech, and at a time, everybody talked about BlackBerry and then it came down, nobody talked about it. We all talked about it on the way up. So the great news about, again, what we're doing is that we're moving into a period of time where their investment is showing, positive returns. Some will be a little awkward. You're just going to have to figure out what the positive on that situation is, right? Maybe the plan is not to move because it's going to recover. But the conversation to follow up the CMA is going to be critical for turning this into future business.
I think I'm going to actually film, if you're interested. I was thinking about this last night when I was working. I think I'm going to film a CMA for someone who bought, my mom, God bless her, does not take my very sage sound advice, and bought a cottage in 2021. So you can imagine what that investment is doing right now. Spoiler alert, it's down 30%, I think, in value. She paid over $1 million. I think she'll get 750 today. And she wants to, she's trying to figure out what to do with it. The Airbnb, obviously the whole landscape of that has changed. People can travel now, they're mobile again. So I was thinking about, creating a CMA with a situation where someone has not seen the returns they'd like to. And I'll share that with you maybe next week. And you can kind of use that as an example of folks that bought at a time that maybe they regret, and being able to share that. The last thing on your slide here for repeat and referral for new agents is just leveraging as much done-for-you marketing content as you can. You want to really use that resource available to you. If you haven't spent time on the portal, you're going to want to do that as homework. A lot of the content on the portal is evergreen, meaning you can use it at any time. Some of it is specific to time of year, holidays, winterization of your home because it's going into winter, that sort of thing. But a lot of it is just very general that you can use at any time. And instead of having you kind of create your own message, we really tried to do that for you by creating that message so that it's there for your use. So make sure you're paying attention to that as well. Jana, we can slide forward, please. Question, go ahead.
CMA contest, like for me, like agents like me who are just new in this business, who are just learning ABC about real estate. How can we participate in this? Because we have to learn everything, right? So
Yep.
Well, yesterday we taught you how to do a quick video CMA on Signature Live, right? And so everybody in your database, everybody that owns a property, you could just send them a CMA. It would be a great introduction. You might choose to say, you know what? You might know that I've recently got into the real estate business. At Royal LePage, twice a year, we like to send out equity updates for all our clients. So this is my equity update my first equity update for you. Hope you enjoy it, and go right into it. Like, come up with let's put it out there. Like, I'm new, put it out there. But I'm with Royal LePage, Signature, the best in the business. We have all the resources. You're going to instantly prove you're very knowledgeable already because you're able to give them this quick equity update. And all you need to do is 20 of them to become eligible to get your name in the hat for the contest to win. Right?
Yeah.
So there's I think this is, again, there's so many ways that this idea of doing these CMAs, thanks to Tom, are going to win, because, if you're new in the business, it's going to be a win because it's going to encourage you to get out there and do these things. And be honest with everybody. I'm brand new. This is the first time I'm doing this, but I'm with Royal LePage, Canada's real estate company, the best in the business. And so I'm able to deliver this to you right away, even though I'm technically a new agent in the business. It depends. I don't know how you want to phrase it, but those are just some ideas that
don't hide behind
it. Yeah. Just open the door and you'll love the responses you're going to get.
You will.
Right? Because believe me, everybody you send videos to are more nervous about doing videos themselves than you are. Right? So they're so impressed. Oh my gosh, you got on camera and actually did that?
Yeah.
Wow, I could never do that. That's big, right? Because most people don't ever have to do that in their line of business. Except for us. That's right. We're the lucky ones. We get to be on camera. Yeah.
Real celebrities. Canna, can we have a look at those questions if you don't mind? Got some questions on Zoomland we'll go to before I talk about the connectivity plan. Oh, okay, they're not specific to this. Okay, we'll hold those then. Okay, connectivity plan wise, you've likely heard about this already in Accelerator. We talk about it a lot on Signature Live. This is the idea that you should have one thing that you're focused on that you're going to deliver 3 different ways every single month. I really would encourage everybody to think about the 4 things we just talked about: the CMA contest, the trades guide, the mortgage outlook seminar, and utilizing the done for you marketing. I'm not going to go too much deeper in the connectivity plan today, but it is something you want to start working on. On the portal, there is an entire guidebook that looks like it does on your screen, which explains all the different components of things you can choose from. But really, I would encourage everyone to really focus in on those 4 we shared on that slide just a minute ago. Key, you can advance. Okay, so that was the database piece of the puzzle. Now we can talk about the new business piece of the puzzle. Darren, you want to jump into this?
New business?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, as you can see on the screen here, we have lots of ideas that you can do. And all of these have generated business since day one of real estate, right? Door knocking, old school stuff here, right? And continually work. I mean, there's agents at the Don Mills office. I'm sure there's agents here in Mississauga and downtown that are doing these activities today and are finding success. So if you have a small database and we're looking for some ideas, door knocking is a great opportunity. And it's really, you're looking at this list here, you know, you've got cold calling, which is over the phone, but door knocking is face to face. What suits your personality? And I want you guys, if you're going to pick one of these topics and go ahead and do it, I want you to really give it an opportunity. I don't want you to door knock 50 houses and you get 50 doors slammed in your face and you're like, door knocking is not for me. You want to continue working on and finessing what you're saying at the door. You're getting objections. How am I overcoming that? You're always getting better and better. Give these things a run, a long opportunity before you turn them down. Cold calling, maybe you worked at a call center and you're great at talking to people over the phone. This might be an opportunity for you to look into cold calling. Open houses, I mean, you can't get any better, guys. Honestly, look for opportunities to get open houses. There's no, on this list here, there's no other way where people are coming to you, right? You're hosting an open house, buyers are coming to you. It's like a car dealership. Like they're coming to you. No,
Walking in
but,
the door.
you know, like the door knocking, you're knocking and it's please God, let this be the one. Whereas if you're hosting an open house, these people are guaranteed either buying or selling real estate. Think about that opportunity. And 50% of them that walk through the door are not working with an agent. We have tons of examples and people that are doing open houses and finding great success, turning over, especially with new Tressa. You know, with the new rules, it makes open housing and obtaining a buyer a lot easier than it was before. Most people wanted to go directly to the seller, which is still the case today a bit. But when we give them the Tressa guide and explain how important it is to work with a realtor on their side, it really changes the mindset. Facebook leads, I've done that before. You know, you get lots of leads. They come in. The fact of the matter of internet leads is you really need to work them, guys. You can't just call them once and that's it. It's multiple follow-up calls, and a text, email, whatever it may be, until they tell you to bugger off or they start to get engaged with you. It's critical with internet leads is the follow-up piece. So if you're going to be taking on that, there is a cost associated, obviously, with that. But really, you could start off with $25 and see where it takes you. What we could also do, what we teach in Accelerator, is you could use Facebook Market. It's free. You contact an agent, ask if you can market their property, put it onto Facebook Market, and you're going to get people reaching out to you. If you want to feel like you're in the business and kind of jump in and get the kinks out, do leasing on Facebook Market. It's a great way to do all the activities that you're going to be doing with your buyers in the future. You're still meeting people, you're still doing showings, you're still doing paperwork, you're doing electronic signatures. Everything that we do with a buyer, you're going to be doing with tenants. So great opportunity there. We teach that in Accelerator.
Yeah.
Great way to build your database.
You know, Darren, just as you were talking about, somebody like, the leasing. Well, we can tell you that some of the top producing people that we have in the organization right now
Just thinking the same thing.
started with marketplace and leasing, and they became very good at it, and they used it to, build their database, learn all the skills that Darren has outlined. Like, it is a really great way to quickly get conversations started. So don't take just this idea of, leasing, I don't want to do leases. Like, it's a lot of work and little return. Well, you're going to learn a lot. You're going to get money flowing immediately for you. And what we can tell you is that some of the top individuals and teams built their business based on leasing. So
We got a whole couple slides.
Yeah,
on these
okay.
Okay,
slides.
great.
We'll talk about that. door knocking and open houses. Can I take that one?
Yeah, go
Yeah.
ahead.
I got a great email last night from an experienced agent here in the West office. And he said, you've been sharing on Signature Live this idea of doing the neighbor open house with the door knocking combined as one strategy. And so he said, I've got my database, but I feel like I need a little bit. I need more people. I really kind of need to give myself a bit of a jolt. So he said, I asked someone else in the office if they'd partner with me. He picked a woman. And so the two of them printed off postcards with the neighbor open house, with the time before the public open house. And he said, we just went door to door and we knocked on every single door. And if they weren't there, we left the postcard. And he said, I think he said it took them 2 or 3 days. They spent a fair amount of time on it. Then they get to the actual neighbor open house. And he says in the email, these people were showing up like we were long lost friends. Like they were walking in like they were so happy to see them. He said we were blown away by just the response, not just the result, which is they actually picked up a buyer from it, which is great. And they had 2 or 3 conversations with other homeowners that said not now, but soon. But he said the best part was that he said, I've always had this mindset that I'm going to bother people at the door, or I'm going to get a million doors slammed in my face. And he said, we didn't. We had people that were so happy to have a conversation about what was happening in their neighborhood. So this idea of the door knocking in the open house, it's kind of in the same vein, Darren, to what you just said about the leasing. Get out there, like get the kinks out. If you're worried about the people you know and what they think, get out there and knock on some doors and ask other agents in this brokerage that maybe have listings that they're not open housing. Lots of agents don't want to open house, truthfully. So if you contact them and say, hey, I see you've got this great listing, I'd love to be able to open house it. Are you okay if I knock on some doors? You're going to make a great connection, but that's a great way to get to know new people, especially if you do it with a partner. You might feel more comfortable. You have someone with you, gives you a bit more of accountability. But that email last night made my whole week. He said, I'm so happy. He actually said in the email, this isn't a new idea. I've been in the business for 20 years. It's not that I've never heard this before, but he said, you guys talked about it on Signature Live a couple times. And I thought to myself, why am I not doing that? Why am I not out there doing that right now? I'm not busy. Why am I not out there doing it? So that's a really great one that I want you to think about. New business as a new person can sometimes feel easier than your database, right? It feels sometimes like you're like, I feel better practicing on people I don't know than people I do know. And so that's really where this new business piece comes in quite handy. So Key, if you want to advance the slide, I think we're going to talk about leases next.
Question for
Yes.
open house, like when you are
Yes.
talking open houses, so generally neighbors are coming who are not interested. They just want to know, okay, what the house is,
Yes.
what their value will be. Some are just passing by, okay, let's see this open house. So, and few of them are working with the realtor. So how to identify they are the actual buyers, or they are interested, or they are potential leads? So is there any tricks or
Yes, definitely.
scripts which we can ask so that we can
Ask lots of questions. Figure out what brought them there, have they been looking long? That's going to uncover opportunities. And as you identified, there's going to be all sorts of people showing up. And they're not all working with realtors, as Darren had suggested. So you ask lots of questions, you gather some information, you say, would you, be okay if I followed up with you following? I had some ideas about what you'd share with me that I think you would find very helpful. Use the resources that we create here, right? The buyer guide, seller guide, put them on the counter, don't give them away. Use that as a tool to allow for a follow-up and communication. That's really what you're doing. Okay.
We have a whole couple slides on open houses in just a minute we'll go over, but that's a perfect question of trying to figure out in the open house how to identify people.
I just want to touch on that. I'm going to say to you that who in the room or online, who would go to an open house if you're not looking to sell or buy real estate?
Me, I go all the time.
Okay, well,
Like every single one.
so you
Yeah,
get the
well,
odd weirdo in here. And you're gonna get that one for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. We're gonna get grandma that comes over and yeah, I've always wanted to see.
It's too. Oh,
Absolutely.
okay.
It's like going to a retail store, right? You walk in, someone's jumping on top of you. No. I'm not looking for it. I'm just browsing or whatever. It's the same thing with open house. If you're not going to you're going there for a purpose. There's a reason why you're taking time out of your day on a Saturday or a Sunday.
Maybe you're a local neighbor who's considering selling
Exactly,
next spring.
correct.
So I'm
Sizing it
what's
up.
going on in the neighborhood, right? Oh, there's an open house because it's in the back of their mind that they're contemplating something in the next 6 to 12 months.
100%.
So again, look, real estate is an interesting business because as much as we want to do deals today, it's really about building your pipeline of business. Because it's very rare that we're going to go out of this room, pick up the phone, dial one of your 5 calls today, and somebody's going to say, "Oh, I'm so glad you called. I wanted to buy a house today."
Mhm.
Right? It's just not the way real estate works. It's, oh my gosh, that's so interesting. Yeah, tell me about how do you think that this is going to affect rates? Because we're contemplating making a move in the new year. That's kind of the process, right? It's 90, 180 day cycle of meeting somebody today who's contemplating something in the next 6 months. So we also want I'd like everybody to think about that concept, because if we're rushing out there looking for somebody to trade in real estate today, you're going to likely be disappointed in your activity results, right? Because if you're looking for a today, now you might find a lease. That's why leases are great today business, because generally that's a shorter, runway in terms of actually acting on something. But it's so important from a business mindset standpoint, to think about the business you're in and the fact that there is a lead time to the transaction. We're just doing all these activities we're talking about is uncovering these opportunities that are going to happen in the next 6 to 12 months. And I think if we go into it with that mindset, it might open our eyes up to being able to communicate, ask more questions, and just not be as focused on the moment. Like, let's get something done today. So I hope that helps from a
There's a question here, and then sir, I'll come to you.
Yeah, Fuad.
Fuad.
Yeah, I was just wondering, regarding strategies of hosting an open house. Would it be maybe a good strategy to have maybe somebody sign a buyer representation right on the spot? If you had a good conversation there, would that be?
We definitely try. I mean, I will say it's hard to do. It is hard to do.
Right.
Think about, if you walk into a retail store to buy something, even if they're to buy on the spot and the person comes right up to you and they're like, "Hey, come sit down over here." You're kind of apprehensive in the beginning.
Right.
I think the easier thing to close for is the correct contact information. So really that's the name of the game, right? If you're using a sign-in sheet and they're not having the correct information, then you can't follow up with them.
Right.
That kind of is, I mean, if you get the sense someone's ready to go and you can get that in front of them and they want to sign it.
Yeah, I know.
But my experience is typically it takes a bit more time because they just don't know you yet. But we've got a couple slides on open houses that we'll talk about in a minute about strategies to get the right information.
Sure.
Sarah?
I'm just gonna show you.
Please do.
I would say you would open houses yourself, see the pros and cons, and then when you do open house, you're gonna get on this. For example, I used to approach every person that wants to. I don't do that anymore. I let them, if it's a vacant property, there's no personal belonging. I let them be. When they come down, just have a casual conversation with them. And honestly, that's how it starts. And then Sam said something that I started to use rather than, "Are you open with the realtor?" Who's your realtor? Oh, whoever it is. Oh, I know that realtor. Honestly, on the spot, I've had that question. None of them work with realtors. So it's just, you try doing more than your husband. Go to open houses yourself, see how that realtor reacts, and then it works. I've been doing open houses and it's going great. Just using strategies that I learned from the neutral lens has changed it a lot.
Oh, thank you, Sarah. That's great. Zoomland, the feedback from Sarah Hampton at the back of the room was that if you're starting your open house journey, you want to go into open houses and see what other people are doing and observe people coming into the property and see what works and what doesn't work. A lot of the times I learned from Karen Miller, who, as far as I'm concerned, is the queen at it. And Fuad, what she always said to me is you want to treat it like a cocktail party. You want people to feel welcome. You want them to feel at home. You want them to kind of, settle in, as opposed to going in, looking and trying to get out as soon as possible. And if you can figure out what that feels like, people will settle in and you'll be able to have better conversations. So on your screen here, you can just see this is a sample activity plan. So if you're trying to kind of plan out your activities of all the things we're talking about today, this can sometimes be helpful to keep you on track. Monday, I'm going to do this. Tuesday, I'm going to do that. See if you'll advance the slide for a minute. We're not going to spend a ton of time on Signature Live. It's literally one slide. It says Signature Live and learning. Signature Live is a non-negotiable for newer agents. I mean, I think it's a non-negotiable for everybody, frankly. But if you're looking to build your business and you're looking to grow, coming on twice a week for an hour or catching the replay, listening to it in your car is a non-negotiable. I don't think we're the smartest people in the room, but I do think that we have the benefit of spending all day, every day, talking to people about what's working and then disseminating that information into a 1 hour segment twice a week for everybody to take advantage of. It's a non-negotiable for you folks because you have a lot to learn and you've got a lot of skill sets to develop and you got to get better and more confident at what you're doing. And you can't do that by just sitting in your house by yourself. You have to be coming on and listening. So that's our soapbox pitch on Signature Live. This is the lease part of the conversation. We've touched on leases a little bit already today. And you heard from, Darren, a little bit of strategy on that side of things. You can use a couple ways for you to do more lease deals. So number one, you can use Facebook Marketplace. You can use Kijiji and Craigslist. You can put ads up. You'll get leads coming in. This will teach you how to qualify folks, how to get better at asking great questions. To Darren's point, it's the same process as working with a buyer. It's paperwork, qualification, showings, putting contracts together, presenting to agents, understanding how the deal works. The second thing is it's very imperative to build your list. So if you are sitting in the room and we go back to that database conversation and I say to you, how many qualified people do you have? And you're like, geez, I might get to 30 or 40. We've got to build the people that you know in a professional capacity, and leases are a great way to do this.
Can I add one?
Please
that
do.
I'm hearing a lot as well. Connect with a signature agent. There will be agents out there that will
Yes.
not really want to handle the details of a lease. Now, most often they'll handle the lease listing, but any tenant leads, they're going to turn them over to somebody. So again, connect with an agent, make yourself available, and I think you're going to get opportunities that way as well.
Definitely. Thank you for adding that. Very, very important. Just connect with agents that have listings that you're like, oh, I wouldn't mind running with that. That's a neighborhood I'm familiar with. I'd work that area. You can also post on our signature agents page. If you have lease listings or lease tenants you don't want to work with, I'd be happy to take them. That's also really, really helpful. So leases are a great way. And you both mentioned it. And I will say it too. When I was a realtor, when I started, I was very young. And leases was all I did. I spent like 18 months and that was all I did. I knew every single building. I had like a crew of university students that were all finishing at the same time. And I met one and I said to the one, thank goodness I learned it. I think Chris probably told me. I said to the one, hey, if you know anyone else that's, looking for a property that they want to lease, like I'd be happy to help. And that was it. That one led me to all of these different groups of other people. And that was all I did for a year and a half. And it's how I built those buyers that came later on. So leases are a fabulous way. Now, they take a lot of time. You're not, going to love them, but they're really, really imperative. It's kind of like Signature Live. They are a requirement.
Yeah, the critical piece on the lease as well, and it was sort of spoken around, but I want you to hear it directly. You need a procedure, right? You need a process, whether it's a checklist, like they have to do the following before I have a conversation or before we go out and take a look at property. Like you want to build that because you have to become good at qualifying because you just don't have enough time to go and show property to someone who, quite honestly, the landlord's just going to say no to. And I know that sounds harsh, but we are running a business here. It's not to say that we can't help them. Maybe we're going to suggest that they, look at other sources for potential opportunities, but we need to be working with qualified individuals.
Slide, please, Keith.
I have a question.
Joe.
So on point first, you say that we should put ads on Facebook. So are those listings or randomly we have to just put 1-bedroom apartment available, 2-bedroom or particular
Listings.
listing?
Listings. And you can use our company listings.
Oh.
Just have to get permission from the listing agent in order to do it. But that's the benefit of being at Signature because we have so much. There's so many opportunities, right? Those are the resources that you want to rely on.
Darren, you want to talk about open houses for a couple minutes? Lots of questions on open houses.
Yeah,
I'd love an open house. Love.
yeah, honestly, my three pillars were connectivity with my database, open houses, and leasing. And what I found was, and Sam, she goes around and checks people, and I'm sure she'd be the first one to tell you that probably out of 5 that you go to on a weekend, 4 are pretty boring. And they're not doing the right activities. And she's probably walking in and walking straight out the door. There's no contact, there's no conversation, there's none of that Karen Miller feel. And so I wanted to, there's so many of us in this industry. My mindset for everything that I ever did in my business was, how do I stand out? How do I look different than other agents so that people respect me more than the next guy or girl? And open houses was my gig. So there's a lot of things. If you want to have a really good, successful open house, there's a lot of steps that you need to put in place. And we have, checklist of things that you should do prior to, during, and after an open house. And the one, first off, if you're going to open house for somebody, same thing with the leases. You're going to contact a signature agent. You're going to ask if you can open house them. I think there's a Facebook open house messenger group. So there's always opportunities on there. You finally get it. And what you want to do is make sure that they put it on realtor.ca. That's your first step. How you do that is you go into Realm, you go into the new Realtor Hub, have them post the listing for open house on the weekend. Now you want to know the details of the property. People are going to be coming into the property and asking you questions. How old's the roof? If you're standing there like a deer in headlights, it's over. Like, the opportunity is missed. And like I said, 50% of the people that are coming in are probably looking for an agent eventually. So you want to know all the facts and materials about the property. I want to get your signs out early. Get them on the corners to make sure that you have good exposure there, bringing people into the property. And then what I used to do is I used to have a contest for signing up people and getting their information, because I was sick and tired of getting Fred Flintstone at hotmail.com and calling a number and it was a pizza joint or something like that, right? So I threw out a $50 gift card. Appreciate the people that are coming in. Hey, if you want to be part of my raffle at the end of the open house, please give me your information. I will be doing a video and sending it out at the end of the day, and I'll come meet you. And when I started doing that activity, my increase of getting good contact information really rose through the roof. Another thing I used to love to do is I used to check out properties around my open house prior to my open house. So if I'm open housing a detached 3-bedroom, 3-bathroom, I'm going to those other properties that are in the neighborhood. So when somebody comes in, and just like you said, you're having that nice conversation at the end before they leave. I always stood in front of the door so that they can't get out without talking to me. And it's, hey, I'd really love to, if you could give me some feedback, good or bad. It's not my house, but I would love to give the seller some information and feedback. Yeah, we're really looking for an ensuite in the primary. That's unfortunate that ours doesn't. I'm not sure if you've seen the one at 123 Anywhere Street. I was just there this week with another client. It's absolutely fantastic. It's a spa in the ensuite. I'd be happy. You're already here. I'm finishing up at 4 o'clock. I'd be happy to meet you over there at 4:15, 4:30. Would that be of interest to you? I'm not going to say I nailed everybody, but I nailed a lot of people, and I met up with them again, and I'm building the trust again. When we're meeting new people, the reason why they're not transacting with us immediately is because they don't know us. They don't know our character, our personality, how we're going to work for them. This gave me another opportunity to get in front of them. And a lot of people would say, yeah, well, you know what, we're going to go for a coffee. We'll meet you there at 4:30. And now, I got that. At the end of my open house, I'd pull out my video, BombBomb. If you don't have BombBomb, guys, get it. It is an unbelievable app. You should have it in your arsenal. Did a quick video, did the raffle. Hey, Chris, you just won the raffle. I'll meet you. Thanks for everybody participating. Meet up with Chris. Again, another opportunity to connect. I need multiple connections. This is my mindset with people is, how do I keep getting in front of them? And how do I keep interacting with them to get them to know my personality and start loving me and turn into their realtor? So those are sort of the things that I did to try to stand out. If you go to any other open house and then you came to mine, you know, I had balloons, like I had a flag with an open house, like everything was there. You know, my material out on the desk. I had the neighborhood report that I printed off. Just multiple things that when people came in, they're saying to me, "Wow, you do this for every open house?" Yeah, I do this for every open house, and that just set me apart. So you know, give those things a chance, an opportunity, and you won't believe the outcome.
Yeah. I think if you don't make a practice of going, if you're not a weirdo like me that goes in every single one, just like spend some time this weekend and just go into a couple. Like really like look at the difference between the quality. I went into an open house 2 weeks ago in my neighborhood, traditionally a very low inventory pocket. And the person hosting the open house was watching television on their tablet. Now that's fine, that's a choice. But as I'm walking in, you would think that they would stop and get up. It was to the point that I had to say, sorry, are you at 999? What are you asking on this house? There was zero engagement. And again, it's sort of going back to our original conversation. If you think that every single realtor out there is trying to think about really great ways to do open houses, they're not. Don't lose sleep over the fact that you think everybody is doing a great job. They're not. And we did an entire session on open houses, Darren and I, in July. It's in the portal. You should go back and have a look at it. It was on Signature Live, where we talked about these different strategies and how to make yourself stand out at open houses. If you're doing them correctly and you're doing them a minimum 4 times a month, and you're getting better at them, because if you're new and you haven't done them before, to Sarah's point, it does take some time to kind of feel like you've settled in and you kind of know what you're doing. I remember the first few that I did, I'm like, man, I have no idea what I'm doing.
Yeah.
People are asking me questions and I am not nailing this. But once you can get there, you will find people are naturally going to want to talk to you because they're going to other open houses and getting no information and no service and no attention, really. So you can get better at them. Roger, do you have a comment?
Yeah, Darren mentioned that Chris was the winner who became in
Yes,
open house
the contest.
What if Chris is the person who was working with another agent?
Yeah, good question. So Zoomland, the question is, how does Darren choose his contest winner? What if he picks someone that's already working with the realtor? We'd stop the recording right now because Darren's open house contact might have been rigged.
Yeah. That's where I was going with it, actually. Like, whoever I had the best conversation with is in my hand.
Are we recording that one?
Unbelievable. What does this one say? Oh, working with a realtor? Yeah, I mean, great question. You know, it didn't really matter to me if you're working with a realtor. It's the optics of everything, right? So when I'm following up now, because I've got good contact info now, I'm following up with those people the very next day or even that evening, and having conversations with everybody. So optically, they're going to see my video. I'm going to be following up with a call. It's still hopefully going to give me that clout with them to move forward, hopefully, and work with them.
Yeah. The value in it is getting people's information. Darren doesn't care who wins the contest, really. The value is in people putting their correct information on the sign-in sheet to follow up with.
And Roger, very few are signed up.
The other agent.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
Roger, very few are signed.
Gee, we can stop the slides because we're going to go to questions in a minute.
Just to finish off on the open house as well, if you're going to commit to 3 to 4 hours on a Saturday, Sunday, and you know, you're giving up something else in order to do that activity, make it the best 3 to 4 hours you possibly can. There's a lot of things that are going to be within our control, whether, you know, what we do before that, during it, and following the open house. Let's agree that we're going to do some activities and that people aren't going to show. I know I've got people in the room here. It's like, you know, I had one show up. That's going to be a reality that you're also going to experience, but don't judge that as a basis for the activity as a whole.
Mm-hmm.
Recognize that if you have a strong, consistent approach to how you conduct an open house based on all the activities that Darren has shared with us, the results will follow.
Mm-hmm.
It may not, as Chris pointed out, it may not be immediate, but, you know, Ankur, to your point, when you asked earlier about, you know, how do we know people coming in? Like, if I said to you, I met somebody who was only looking for decorating ideas, but they were going to, sell their home in 3 years' time, would that be enough encouragement for you to stay connected to them over the next 3 years to help them sell at that point? The answer, I hope, is yes, right? We are just trying to uncover opportunities. Some will be today, some will be maybe long-term, maybe some never materialize, but let's commit to making it the most productive time that we can with respect to that activity.
And Darren mentioned that too. I mean, Darren said, don't go knock on 50 doors and say door knocking doesn't work, right? Don't host 2 open houses and say, I never pick up any leads. Like anything will work. Consistency is undefeated, right? Anything's going to work if you do it over and over and over again and get better at it, which is really what you folks need to take from this session. So we just want to wrap up on a few points that we talked about today. And then I know there's lots of questions in the room and lots of questions on Zoom. So we'll get to those. So first things first, we talked about your database, right? We talked about building the number of people that you know. We talked about sending out information and how this really is a relationship, people-based business. We talked about the 4, I think, best ideas right now that really matter to newer agents as you're getting going, which is the Trades Guide, the Market Outlook Seminar, the CMAs that everyone else is participating in as part of that contest, and leveraging the Den for You marketing content to be able to have conversations and be more visible on your social channels. Then we talked about leases and new business, including leases, door knocking, cold calling, open houses, how to really kind of marry some of those strategies together with your door knocking and your open houses. And again, as new people, you can leverage the Signature community, reach out to folks that have listings, ask if they're going to be open housing, ask if they're door knocking, ask if you can do that for them. A lot of times, if they're not doing it themselves, they're happy for you to do it for them and happy for you to take that off their plate. We talked about leases and how important leases are to your business and growing your database and getting used to the feel of the deal and the feel of what that feels like. And then Darren did a little part on open houses, which again, all of these topics have lots of resources in the portal. You can just go to the search button, search what it is you need to find, go ahead and rewatch any kind of content to give yourself, the extra knowledge you might need. And then we talked about Signature Live being a non-negotiable. Really, it's like learning a brand new language when you're starting a new business like this. There's so much to know. And the faster you can help yourself get over that hurdle by listening to things that people talk about. I gave you that tip. I used to write down what Chris said in our meetings. They looked a little different back then, but I would just write down what he said and keep it in my little notebook. And then if someone asked me a question, I would just spit back out what he'd said the day before. And they'd go, oh, that's really smart. And I'm like, oh, I know, because someone else said it, not me. So think about how you're going to kind of help yourself get better at your skill set, and Signature Live is really one of the best ways that we can do that. Do you guys want to add anything to that before we go to questions?
No, I would.
Go ahead.
Just 2 thoughts.
Please.
On the point where you said copy and paste what I say, our long weekend updates, you always get a little letter from me. Take the market update, copy and paste that into an email and send it. That's why it's there, right? Or put it in ChatGPT and clean it up, or make it sound like you, or tweak it a little bit, whatever you need. But there's another opportunity, right? Just use that information. Just from a business standpoint as a whole, you are entrepreneurs. You've started your own business effectively under the umbrella of this resource-rich organization that you have here. So you've got all the tools, all the bells and whistles, the brand, everything. But remember, if you're starting a business, most businesses, if pretty much 100% of businesses are not profitable day one, right? It takes time to grow, build a database, build a clientele. If you open a coffee shop today, it would take you time to become profitable, right? You'd have a whole bunch of capital invested in it, to get it ongoing, and people realize, oh, there's a new coffee shop here on the corner. Oh, maybe I'll check it out. Hopefully you deliver a great cup of coffee and they come back, right? But it's not going to be day one profitable. If you open a clothing store, if you open a restaurant, or you name it, right? We're in business. What we need to do is consistently execute on the activities that are going to create growth. It is going to be slow. It's going to feel slow because we're so wired for the results we're looking for as a paycheck, right? We're human. We need that kind of thing, and to continue. But really what we want to focus on is 100% on the activities. If you're uncomfortable hearing about what these activities are, like picking up the phone, talking to people. I'll be very blunt. If this stuff is uncomfortable, this might not be the right industry for you to be in. Think about that for a second, right? We have to do activities that put us in front of people on a daily basis. Full stop. As Tom Ferry very succinctly said, call every person you know. If that's not something you can wrap your head around or get authentic about, or, hey, I'm going to be real, not great at first, but I'm going to grind through to get good. If that doesn't resonate with you, I would encourage you to consider something else. Because there's 70,000 licensed real estate people right now in our industry. And last month, there were 4,996 sales. You can participate in this business because the cool thing is the vast majority of people aren't having these types of conversations in our industry. They don't have access to the resources that we have. And even those at Signature that do aren't executing on all of the things that we have, right?
Drives me crazy.
This room should be standing room only, and it's not, right? But you've chosen to be here. So that's a signal to me that what I'm saying is resonating, which is exciting. Because if we now take the ideas and we commit to executing, we commit to not sounding funny on video the first 27 times, and then we finally say, oh, I'm getting better at this. It's kind of cool, right? On the first 10 phone calls that I know I need to make, I'm kind of rough and sticky, and I'm a little awkward. But at call number 11, I'm like, oh, okay, I can feel I'm making a little bit of headway. I'm feeling a little more comfortable with it. That's progress. That's growth. That's building a business. And that's where the opportunity lies. It's there for all of us. But we've just got to do the things. And if we do, look out. It's going to be awesome.
I'm going to let you guys take the question.
You go ahead.
Okay, just start at the top. What's this hanging off this? Is that for good luck for me?
Yeah.
All right. All right, so.
Your phone, Keon? Oh, very nice.
Darren, this is going to feel like the accelerator recorder where I ask you questions and you demonstrate how much. Okay, so in terms of a buyer looking for an agent, I met a couple at an open house. They didn't have an agent. They don't want one. They wanted to do a deal with the listing agent. I spoke with them after at length upon that, decided, okay, we will use a buyer's agent. However, they said they only wanted to work with a buyer agent to draw up the paperwork and that I would only get paid $5,000. So it goes on a little bit further, but why don't I throw that to the two of you?
It's a great question.
And you can let us know your thoughts on that.
Want to start off on that one?
Sure.
No, I would say.
Yeah. Well, you go ahead.
Well, I was going to say goodbye.
No,
I'm more valuable than that.
I think there's a couple of different ways to approach it. And that's a fabulous question because it's very relevant in today's market, right? Because we're hearing that people are hearing that, well, I could be a self-represented, there's new rules, right? TRESA is there for a reason. It's to give people choice. And so this is where our skill and strategy and ability comes into play, right? So you can be frustrated and like, oh yeah, they're useless. Yeah, goodbye. Good luck. Or you can embrace the moment and say, hey, I could appreciate you wanting to save money, right? Because it sounds like you're concerned about how much it's going to cost you. Right? That seems like it. And then might be, well, yeah, of course. Like it's like this is a lot of money involved in the transaction. That's great. Well, if you'll give me after the open house or at another time, an opportunity to sit with you for 15 minutes, half an hour, I'd love to go through the process of what buying and selling real estate is all about. Before you say that, I just remembered I should use one of Phil Jones's, great positioning statements is, oh, that's interesting. Can you tell me how much experience do you have in buying your own home? Why not ask them, how much experience do you have in buying your own home? And see what they say. Well, I'm actually an experienced investor. I own 7 properties. I manage them myself. I have a standard contract that I like to use. But yeah, I appreciate what you're saying. I could maybe use somebody to guide me a little bit and maybe do some hunting for me because I can't see all the products. Okay, great. Now we're getting some context around this individual, right? And we can maybe choose how we want to take the conversation from there. Or they might say, well, actually, this is my first house. I was told by my dad that I should negotiate commissions. Okay, great. I respect that too. No problem. Why don't we spend some time? You know, if you give me 30 minutes of your time, come to my office and I'll run you through the process because this is a big decision you're making. You're going to spend $400,000, $500,000, $700,000, $1 million, $2 million, whatever the number is, on a major asset. You know, if you're anyway, you know, if you're like me, you probably want to be sure that you don't make a mistake on such a big purchase. So no obligation. Come, let's sit down and we'll go through the process together. And maybe that'll help you decide whether you feel you want to work with a professional like myself or somebody else, or you really want to continue to go it on your own. All right, give it a try.
Darren, how did you do?
Well, I was just about to say, this is why we go to these training courses. Now I just learned something. If I ever come across that, I will definitely. That was really good.
All right. So Julie asked the question, and it's just a fairly tight question here. I'm preparing to list a 3-bedroom, 3+1 bedroom detached in Midtown Toronto. Should I order a pre-list home inspection? Does the buyer normally request one at their own expense as one of their conditions in their offer? And then a follow-up, it says, I'm buying a house and instead of taking commission, I choose a 2.5% price reduction in the sale price. How do I notify the listing agent? Do I disclose? So I'll follow up. So let's start with the pre-home inspection. What's your thoughts on pre-home?
It depends. Julie, I think it depends on whether you're setting the property up for multiple offers. I like to say that once you find something in the inspection, you can't unfind it. So you do need to prepare that what could come up when you do the inspection is something that would have to be disclosed. So sometimes it's better not to do the inspection depending on the type of property, whether it's owner occupying, who lives there, how long they've lived there. There's kind of pros and cons on that. We can probably take that offline. We could probably take that second question offline too, if that's okay, because it's pretty specific.
Yep. So Julie's got another one here, doing a CMA for a 4+1 detached in Midtown Toronto. I'm looking at comps sold within the last 6 months, same lot width, same big building age, similar layouts, number of bedrooms. Lot is a lot shorter. How do I account for the differences of lot depth? Is there a formula? Everybody wants a formula to calculate.
This is why you would, but
yes.
There's a formula what happens to us.
Yeah.
If they could just do the math on their own.
So I think, there is no formula for the.
It depends.
I'm also going to add to this. I think the value in a lot is typically on the width. And whether a lot is 100 or 120 feet deep is probably not going to change the use of it. Maybe just for some people, if they were looking for some specific. So the value is often going to be in the width of the lot and not the depth of the lot. So it would be very marginal. If you said everything else was equal, I wouldn't give much.
So it depends on the difference. I don't think, did she specify the difference? What's the difference?
Just depth.
That's a big difference. I mean, if it's 20 feet, maybe not. If it's 80 feet, that's going to make a difference, right? It depends on the size of the depth,
and it can also affect the size of the home too, right? Because there's lot coverage. So if there's an issue with that, you may want to just double check that the same size house is on your lot versus the other lots. If there's a coverage issue, is there an opportunity to put a garage in the back? Is there not an opportunity to put a garage in the back? Are pools popular in the neighborhood? Are they not popular in the neighborhood? There's a ton of factors there. I think you can come to a general consensus around it. Unfortunately, there is no strict formula for that, But what you will find once you start picking apart these different factors for the types of properties in that area, you will kind of get a sense of, sometimes it's just a natural sense, a buyer is really not gonna, to your point, Sam, it's maybe 20 feet shorter than a traditional lot in the area. By observing what's going on in the area, people don't use the back 20 feet of their lot anyway, right? So it might not be that relevant. But to your point, if it's 80 feet shorter,
Yep.
and you have almost no backyard, and you're in an area where maybe it's for young families and children, and they want a place for their kids to play, or a pool or whatever it might be, then it might be more relevant. So it'll have a greater effect on the value of the property. So it's just a bunch of different factors where, you have to kind of dig in and pick apart these scenarios, different things, and you'll come up with an idea. We're happy to help with you specifically on that one, to help you kind of go through it.
And it also depends, Julie, if this is a CMA for the contest versus a listing presentation CMA. Remember the CMA for the contest is really high level, right? So you're not going to need to account for the difference in dollar value because you don't need to give people an actual range. But if it's a listing presentation, let us know and we can help further. We're just going to finish the Zoom questions and then we'll go to the audience if that's
The last one I was going to say the last one. So Darren, this one, other than, so where do we find the forms besides Sky Slope? Is there a location for forms other than Sky Slope?
Web forms.
Yeah, still available.
Yep, still available,
Okay.
yeah.
Can you explain the levels? Can you explain the levels?
Yes.
Accelerator, leaders, et cetera. So
yes.
do you want to take that one?
Sure, like shoving this microphone. I will explain that. So you folks, most of you anyways, are in Accelerator, which is, newer agents looking to build their business. Then we have the Summit program, which started last week on Friday. And the Summit really is there once you've gotten through Accelerator, you've done a few deals, you've gotten some business under your belt. The Summit is focused on taking you out of how to, so not how to do a listing presentation, but how to get better at your listing presentation, how to refine it a little bit more, how to get more confident at it, and how to really get focused on those activities you should be doing to build your business. Once we get you to the point that you're an award winner, where LePage Canada facilitates awards every year based on certain categories. The bottom category, the entry category, is 80,000 GCI, or did they bring that to 70 last year?
It's 80.
Was it 80? 80,000 GCI, and that is what starts the Champions Group, and that goes to Directors Platinum. And the focus of the Champions program is building, right? You've done Accelerator, you got your how-tos, you go to Summit, you've gotten better at your activities, you've gotten better at your presentation. Then you get into Champions and you're like, okay, I kind of have this business figured out. I'm able to do deals, I'm making money, but I'm not where I want to be. I want to build something bigger. If I pulled all of you in the room, I'm sure you have a big number in mind as your career builds. The champion sessions are really focused on how do you build so that you're running a real business. It's systems, it's processes, it's getting better at your activities, it's refining what it is you're doing, it's really nailing down your connectivity plan and getting better at it. Once you've done that, the leaders group starts at Directors Platinum. Directors Platinum is the entry-level leaders group. And that in the leaders groups where we sort of focus a little bit more on bigger business things, continuing on systems. We talk about team building a little bit. We talk about hiring admins. We talk about efficiencies. We talk about farming a little more detail, online leads, things of that nature. How many of you, if we just polled you really quickly, want to get into the leaders group? Show of hands nice and high. How many of you want to be Directors Platinum Award winners? Yeah, that's everybody. Zoomland, when you're at that stage. Yes, thank you. When you're at that stage.
That's sort of, and it's the final question, just when you GCI and leaders, what's the
275.
275-ish?
Thank you.
Yep.
Close collective, yeah.
Yeah.
Let's just say that so simply, 275.
In a single year.
Yeah.
But again, I mean, we do say it simply, and it's not to be elitist, but it's because those of you that are in the room today have different business challenges right now than agents that are doing 275, right? And we used to try to kind of teach everybody some skills at the same time, and it wasn't really working as well as we thought it could because you just have different needs. So that's why now we've kind of bucketed people a little bit differently. It's not because we think anyone's different or better than anybody else. It's just simply because what you need to know is different.
So that's the questions I have from.
Okay, let's go to questions in real life. Not that you're not real life people, Suzanne, but you know what I mean, like face-to-face people. Questions?
Anybody in the room? Questions?
Any question?
We've answered, you've had great questions so far, so it's been fantastic.
A lot of people in my database are like my parents' friends and boomers.
Yeah.
I'm hoping are going to be downsizing, but a lot of them are saying, no, we're going to die in a house. So where do I go to find more information on like estate sales and probate and attorney and that sort of thing?
Yeah, great question. So Zulan, the question was, if my database is skewed to an older demographic of folks that are telling me they're going to die in this house, how do I get a little more focused on estate sales? We actually had a great chat the other day with a John Mills agent named Brenda Grant, and her team does a lot of estate sales. And they've got some really strong relationships with estate planners, folks on the finance side. She's got some great relationships with estate lawyers who get contacted, when that sort of is in need. The challenge, I think, with your parents' friends and for everybody listening, is really at the end of the day, if something happens to the parents, who's making the decisions? It's going to be their children likely, right? And so I would be trying to think about strategically how I get to know your parents' friends' children and how you can kind of build in something with that group so you get to know them. So we've got a gal in the Don Mills office, and her husband is a funeral director. Very well-known funeral home. And they're trying to kind of figure out that same demographic, but she's going about it the opposite way. She has a lot of contacts that are, sort of my age-ish, that mid-40s, where their parents aren't yet kind of getting to that point, but it's time to start having the discussion about what would it look like if you had to go into care, or if we needed home care, or what resources are available. And so I worked with her, and we actually put together a seminar to host for the kids and the parents, where she had her husband coming on as the funeral director, morbid, I know, but necessary. And then they had an estate planner in to talk about taxation and, future planning and access to capital if they need to go into care or have home care. And then they had they did actually end up having a person in the local Don Mills area that is part of the, what's the proper word for them now? Is it care homes? I always say it wrong, and my mom gets mad at me. Is it a care home? Like yeah, assisted living. Yeah, thank you. I tell my mom like the old, when you go to the old age home, and she's like, I have never. I'm like, what? It's up for discussion. So they actually put together this great seminar with these 3 guest experts. And she had like 50 people that came. She just did it on Zoom. She had 50 families, not people, families that came, because it's such a big part of the conversation. So the long answer to your question is, if you have people on your database, a big group of people, you want to think about how you make this more of a family conversation, and you get to know the families a little bit better. Because what Brenda Grant has shared with me is that if she develops relationships with the actual senior, if they pass away and it becomes an estate sale, unless she knows the kids, that relationship is gone. So it's about the ownership of the decision makers once the person has gone, and how you figure that out.
And you can, again, it's education. Like you can, well, what a brilliant way to set up. No wonder you had 50 families attend. This is a big deal. And these are tough conversations for all of us to have, right? I mean, our parents are aging, these things are happening. But exactly. I mean, we know, again, you are the source of great information, that you've vetted these people and as experts, and you bring them together and provide some value, right? And people remember that.
I think lunch is here.
Oh, nice.
Are you hungry?
Questions?
Yes, I'm not sure if this is the right word.
That's okay.
And it's a common one. How to sell the condo listing, right? Like I'm sitting with 4 or 5 assignments, 3 resale condos, 1 client coming into the office today who wants to list this condo, but nothing's looking, not even practice.
Yeah.
Yes.
So great question. The question was, how do we deal with condos in today's market effectively? Sell, rent, whatever it might be. Yeah, I mean, we can all probably talk about this, but it comes down to price, right? And I think giving clients great advice on the reality of what's going on in the market. So I talked about earlier about showing, not just telling. So let's get data together. Let's talk about, like, we use the micro market. I use the micro market data as an example. And I'll use CO1, the condo data, because that's one of the 5 micro markets we do every month, because we had to pick 5 just to, but what
Fit on the paper.
Just to fit on the page, and so that we could make a point of following the ebbs and flows. So if in the areas that your clients are in, take the same micro market format that we use and show them what's happened to inventory over the last 2 years. And maybe you want to do it on a month-to-month basis or every quarter, whatever you want to do. But say, here's the reality of what's going on in today's market.
So we've got 6 months of standing, right now, there's 6 months of standing inventory in CO1 for condos. So that's a hard buyer's market right now. So if we want to be the next condo to sell, we've got to be pretty aggressive on our pricing. Because there's 17 choices right now in your building. And we need to be the best value. Are you interested, first of all, in selling at that price, or should we look at an alternative like let's lease it out for a year and readdress it in a year from now? But I'm happy to have that very direct, very thorough, thoughtful conversation, but I want data that I can visually show them, that maybe I can pull them up on the screen, right? And say, okay, let's take a hard look at what's happening. Maybe we wait till the spring and say, look, if inventory starts to drop, when we get down to 4 months of inventory, prices will maybe start to firm up a bit. So at that point in time, that's our trigger to go back into the sale. But I think we can have very thorough conversations. Assignments are very tricky right now. If they bought at the peak pricing of the market, and you know that today prices are trading at 30-40% below what they paid for resale product, there's too much of a gap there. So we're going to have to say, well, what are the alternatives? Can you close this deal? Can we get you financing? Can I help you get financing to get this deal closed? Because if we walk away from it, you're going to walk away from your deposit and maybe more with no opportunity of ever getting it back because you've lost ownership of that property. But if we can afford to find a way to close it, hang on to it, and maybe it's 3 years, 5 years from now, the tenants are paying for the mortgage, we're paying down the debt, the condo market's going to rebound. We're going to have almost zero new construction condos delivered in 2028, 29, and 30 right now because we're not selling anything. So all this condo inventory will be absorbed over the next 2 to 3 years and prices will start to grow again. So let's have this very thorough, professional, guiding conversation with these and they're not easy conversations to have because people are under financial pressure, right? I get that. But the only way we can do a great job for people is to be very crystal clear on the facts and say, let's come up with a solution together. I'm here for you, but we've got to deal with facts. Putting it out here at this price and hoping, if you don't need to sell and you want to try a price or whatever, it could just, we'll see if we get something. Great, but I still want to have a very thorough conversation with you.
Sorry, I'm just gonna pause this for 1 second. We're gonna actually say bye to Zoom land because our camera is about to die. Because we set up, we wanted to get set up at an appropriate time, and so our camera battery is about to head out. So we will say goodbye to Zoom land. I think we've answered all of the questions, all of the chat on Zoom land. If there's anything left over, you can send me that on email and I will have a look at it for you. I think there's some questions on awards. On the note of awards, you'll get an email later today or tomorrow morning about the awards process from Royal LePage Canada, what you have to know about specific levels, categories, and qualifications. Okay. That was the question. Excellent. Oh, email coming out. Zoomland, thank you for being here. If we can help, you know where to find us. Okay.
Thanks, everyone.
We'll send you a virtual sandwich.
Donovan?
You can shut that off.